Hello, it's the Coaster Craze, and in my latest coaster review, I'll be talking about the very popular and frequent clone, the Vekoma Boomerang coaster. This is the standard one with a length of just under 1,000 feet, a total height and drop of just under 120 feet, and a speed of 47 miles per hour. So not very impressive stats, but this ride does pack in a good amount in a small footprint, largely because it traverses the track twice through those two spikes that have a very iconic look to it. I imagine as just the general public going to the park, they see that the coaster just ends. It looks kind of exciting, and you're like, oh, where does it go from there? And it falls backwards. It's a cool idea, but how is the execution? So first I'm just going to briefly touch on theming and scenery. So this isn't a specific coaster I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the model as a whole. I've been on two, Flashback at Six Flags New England and Sidewinder at Hershey Park. And both of them, and basically all Boomerang coasters, have little to no theming, nor any good scenery or atmosphere, just because they're so compact and usually just put on a flat plot of land. And, well, yeah, sometimes you get a little nice landscaping next to it, like Hershey Park's, but they're not going to be themed or anything. So yeah, it's not very good for that. It's really just about the on-ride experience. So the next topic I want to address are the restraints and smoothness. And the restraints do vary from coaster to coaster. So for example, Sidewinder has the newer style ones where they're over the shoulder, but they give you zero headbanging at all. They're kind of vest restraints. They're pretty nice. Meanwhile, Flashback at Six Flags New England has the more standard ones, which do give you a bit of headbanging. Again, I don't think they're terrible, but on the Cobra roll especially, you will be getting your head bounced around a little bit. Still nowhere near as bad as, say, the ones on the SLC coasters. But the coaster is still a bit rough and has a significant rattle. And the negative thing about it in terms of the roughness and enjoyability is particularly the backward section, because there's a good amount of whip and intensity during these inversions. I will say there's a lot of positive G's, but the thing is when you're going through them backwards, I guess it's just how janky and the transitions that Vekoma designed back in the day, but it always gives me a headache every single time on the backward section, even when it doesn't feel too rough, like the actual track, nor the trains, still get a headache. The forward section, not as bad, but that backwards one, it's a bit disorienting and often not in the best way, which makes it pretty much a one and done always, and I feel like this is reflected by a lot of enthusiasts, partially because it's just so prolific and we don't need to re-ride this clone, but also it's just not that amazing of a ride. I touched upon the very strong positive G's that have both good and bad, but there's also some negative G's, which I think is really cool on the drops. They're only 45 degrees about, they're not very steep, but the feeling of being pulled to the top and then just suddenly released is really awesome. It's almost analogous to a launch, not fully, but it's really cool. And every time I do get a bit of negative G's and a little airtime, that's feeling in your stomach, especially in the forward section, which is really cool. I've had the pleasure of riding these towards the front and the very back, and I would definitely recommend getting on one of the ends because you'll get a better drop feeling. If you're in the front, you'll get it better on the backwards drop, and vice versa. So I guess that's another cool fact, that where you sit on the train will affect your ride experience even more than some other coasters, just because it goes through the track both forwards and backwards. So the layout, basically, I've already touched upon this a bit in saying that it's not supposed to be this amazing ride, but it's supposed to pack in a pretty intense and just thrilling ride in a small footprint, and I would say it achieves that pretty well. It's not a very imaginative layout, but the loop is pretty solid and pretty tight, and so is the Cobra roll. The Cobra roll is probably the biggest problem. I wish they went with another type of inversion or something instead, just because old Vekoma Cobra rolls, again, it's the transitions. It just kind of leaves you with a bit of a headache. And this is also the worst moment of headbanging when concerning the old Vekoma restraints. I really wish that there were some better elements in here during the layout, but again, it's short, and for what it is, I would say it does it pretty well, I'm not gonna lie. And just briefly touching upon the capacity, it can only one train just because of, it having to go through the station, and they don't have switch tracks ever because it's such a short ride, but that can often lead to very long lines. It only seats 2 across, and that can definitely be a problem if you're trying to get on the ride. So this is a good one that I would maybe say do early in the day or very late in the day, so you can get on it without a crazy line, because it's not fun to wait for a mediocre coaster in a crazy long line. So now, I think it's time for the overall score. As you can tell, I'm kind of ambivalent on it. I think the biggest plus is definitely those drops. I actually really enjoy them, and they always surprise me by just how fun they are. And the loop in the forward section, and to a lesser extent, the cobra roll in the forward section are pretty fun too. Going through the backwards can be fun for many people, I would imagine. Just the disorientation. I think it's kind of a cool experience, but it's very just not a good ride to re-ride over and over again, just because it definitely gives me a headache. I'm sure it gives many other people headaches. So for my overall score, I'll be giving the Vekoma Boomerang model, again, this is just based on the two I've ridden. It will probably vary a little bit, like maybe some are a little better, some are a little worse, but I'll be giving the Vekoma Boomerang a 5.5 out of 10. So it's just slightly above average for a coaster. I don't think it deserves the hate that some enthusiasts give it, but again, it's no special ride, and overall, just kind of a mediocre experience. So thank you for watching this review of the Vekoma Boomerang. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to comment down below your opinions on this very popular coaster model, and like and subscribe for more awesome coaster videos coming very soon to the channel. I'll see you guys later. This is the Coaster Craze signing off. Goodbye.